Hello there, Jakey Noob here. Currently trying to get my slow control down to a T in the car park, with most of the public looking at me funny. I've been a motorcyclist now for an entire year, and I gotta say, I've got a bunch of recommendations to suggest to new riders. Now, bear in mind, this is from a first year of riding experience level, so there's better experienced riders out there, and any advice you should always take with a grain of salt. But I feel it's kind of what I want to do. I kind of want to share a little bit of my experiences with you so you can get a feel for it, so to speak. So, how to get started in the UK as a motorcyclist is probably the most common question asked, and it's relatively simple. Depending on your age, as it stands, you must complete a CBT or compulsory basic training course. This is essentially your gateway to learn the very basics of the bike, such as starting the bike, doing slow starts, getting used to the bike, general clutch control, and obviously getting used to balance. So, depending on experience with cycling, even if you've literally ridden the bike, you've got a basic idea of balancing and how to, come to a stop on two wheels and stuff like that. So, either way, the instructor will guide you through the controls, whether it's on a one-to-one basis or with another learner rider. I ended up riding a very hefty boy, a 125cc Zontes, and I stacked it immediately. The weight of the bike was way too much for me, so at the time I couldn't handle it. So instead, I opted in for the 50cc moped, which sounds like a really bad idea because you should get used to the cc of your bike you're hoping to ride with every day, but I'll explain my method in a moment. Going back to the CBT, once you complete that, you have 2 years on that certificate to either fully acquire a license or repeat the CBT once that has expired. I'm currently looking to acquire my license in due time, but I need to complete a theory test and then move on to the full license, the A-class license. So once you complete your CBT, because it's something you cannot fail unless you're extremely dangerous, it's down to yourself to learn your ride. So I purchased my first bike within a month of passing my CBT, and I chose the Honda CB125F. I chose that bike because I tried a few before by going to different dealerships, and as soon as I sat on the Honda, I knew immediately it was the one for me, as it was a perfect fit for both my legs, and my body position was just great. I didn't feel like I couldn't take it on or handle it, and it was light enough for me to actually maneuver. So you'll notice that most 125 bikes, you tend to be either looking a little bit sporty or rather bare looking in terms of appearance. So I'd ultimately suggest you find the best bike for your purpose. If it's strictly for commuting, find something comfortable for your body. Although everyone will be likely screaming in the comments, "Babusa, idiot!" Most advice you'll find online is likely from Americans, and they have something similar to us, except they have the MSF, and they ride on larger CC bikes from the start. I'd strongly suggest ensuring you read up on your local government site to ensure you find the right path to riding. But of course, me being in the UK, it makes sense to talk about where I'm from. Once you've purchased your ride, got it insured, and you feel you're ready to ride, we should talk about gear. And I'd recommend looking into decently priced helmets from the get-go, and avoid sites like Amazon or eBay. I only say this because not many riders know this. Helmets have an expiry date, which usually is about 5 years. So with a fresh purchase, a brand new helmet that you've got direct from a manufacturer or reputable reseller, you've got 5 years straight away. Whereas secondhand, you may not have any information on that helmet. So I'd strongly recommend getting a new helmet, as your head is probably the most important part to protect. Next on the shopping list is probably protective gear or clothing. Doesn't have to be extremely crazy high quality leather racing gear. You don't need to be in a full bodysuit of leather if you're just going to the shops. It's not really needed. But if you're on a 125, you may need something that will protect your skin if you slide out from the bike. Speaking of leathers, you'd be surprised that you don't even need leathers these days, as textile options are available. They are just as protective and durable. And I would recommend trying both leather and textile to ensure you can move around comfortably and without feeling restricted. Same applies to the lower half for boots. Again, these do not need to be crazy expensive. But the gear I went with the Viper helmet. It was affordable for me at the time, and I know from experience I can definitely find better options. Of course, I'm open to suggestions in the comments below. But as for clothing, I went strictly RST, both textile, upper and lower body, and the boots. Now, I bought ankle boots, and I have some wisdom to pass to you. I would strongly suggest having winter weatherproof boots. I've learned the hard way thinking the ankle boots would survive the harsh UK weather, and they will wear and tear with boots, and unfortunately the wear and tear got too much, and I ended up with a giant hole in my very nice shoes, which I was really upset about. But it makes sense because they are the closest thing to the ground apart from your bike wheels, and eventually, dirt, debris, twigs, stuff like that will eventually keep hitting your toes. You won't feel it because obviously most of these things have steel toe caps in them, and they're designed to obviously protect your feet as much as possible. So it'd be a bit dumb, wearing, I don't know, canvas shoes that are, from a reputable brand, which I'm not going to say the name, but let's say it's not a great shoe to wear. I'd recommend not wearing it. Anyway, so going through the list: CBT, bike, documents for insurance, all get up, and then on to the riding part. So actually getting your bike going. I literally spent, no joke, 6 hours with my Honda on the drive, just going round and round and round and round, barely going over 10 miles an hour. And that was my fastest speed on the drive. At first, I barely peaked 5 miles an hour from, just getting used to the clutch control because, again, I was on a moped. But, just getting used to how the bike handles, it's definitely a part of it, and it's very important that you do it. Eventually, after getting used to the first gear and how the bike handles at slower speed, I took the plunge and obviously went onto the road. So I braved some of the back roads near me and, learned how to change gears. And then, of course, at last, I'm riding. I'm officially like a biker. I'm literally getting it right. I'm doing the thing. But now I wanted to share this next thing, which I think is important for you. I want to share experience I had with you all because it shows that CBT teaches you something, but if you struggled and you complete the course on an automatic, you can basically get going because you get the start of riding, but you don't always get the full experience. So obviously, depending on how it goes, sometimes, if you just want to get the CBT finished and, the instructor works with you and can trust you and see how well you are, he may just put you on an automatic. Now, whether that's due to change, obviously, do make sure you read up on it, but ultimately, per instructor basis, I got very lucky with mine. But yeah, he had really strong faith in me, and I'm glad that he did, because when he asked the question about how gears work on a bike, if anybody knew about it, I was the first to answer, because from what I've learned throughout previous experiences and stuff, like bike gears can be very different, because it's not like you're selecting a gear with a gear stick like you are in a car, or if you're across the pond, you're not selecting the drive or park position. It is literally just a lever on the handle on your left hand and a foot switch or foot lever. So you're essentially doing two things at the same time. And the phrase goes 1 down, 6 up. Or if you've got a low speed bike, 5 gears. So 1 down, 5 up. So, I would strongly suggest, it sounds stupid, just start practicing that foot pan. So 1 down and then keep lifting your foot up a few times. And then do the same when you change it down. So just down, 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 down. And then even if you looked off, do any bike footwear, like on the sofa, just start breaking them in, because the more you break the footwear in, the more flex you're going to get. And it's going to make it so much easier controlling your iron horse. So I'd highly recommend, if you got the chance to, but you've got your gear already, start breaking it in a little bit. It sounds like a really silly thing to do, but you'll thank your feet later, because when you're trying to shift gears with a stiff boot, trust me, I've been there. I've had to break in my winter boots, and I had to go to work the next day, and it was not fun. I was terrified. I was literally like an old person driving a bike. So, moving on to the next part of my journey, I eventually came to the point where I had to go further and obviously actually get to work, and back at least, which of course I've managed it, which took time to get used to, but I did that, and I eventually moved on to more leisure trips on the weekend. So it took a longer journey, building up more confidence and speed. But obviously, when it comes to speed, 125s, you'll be very surprised that some of them can actually reach 70 miles an hour, which is the absolute speed limit here in the UK, which I think is in a sense a good safety barrier for learner riders. And the only way I've ever hit 70 is when I've literally gone downhill. The wind was very good, and I was literally head down and just going for it. But from a comfortable position where I'm not leaning forward and doing stuff like that, I've peaked 67 on long trips, and that's just an average. So, that's all within reason, I've not really done anything that would considerably be, breaking the law, but, you know, it's just the case of, that's literally the fastest I've gone based on the flow of traffic. Now, again, it's down to you what type of bike you go for, because sport bikes obviously give you the better position to enable you to be more streamlined, whereas a naked bike, which is what I have, is more for long distance leisure and comfort and stuff like that. So people would argue like cruisers are basically comfort bikes, where you're on about, it's different positions, different feet styling. So if you prefer the lounge position where your feet are kind of like pointing upwards a bit, then you can do that. If you got more of a flat based foot where you can just keep it flat and level with your wheels, that's fine. And then obviously sport bikes, you literally as if you're leaning right forward, so all your gears and stuff are a little bit further back than what most people are used to. So obviously, again, this is down to your body fit, how you feel, and again, purpose. So with that in mind, obviously this brings me nicely to the next part of the year, group riding. So it was a strange feeling going to one for the first time. I really felt really out of place at first because I was rolling up with an L plate, which I was expecting banter for, because everyone was just going to call me Elroy or something like that, silly names like that. But I was incredibly lucky with the community. They were very welcoming, and yeah, you'll be very surprised how community driven bikers are. If you've not seen it already, the bike community is insanely helpful to each other. They will literally, doesn't matter if it's torrential rain, they see a rider in the hedge, they will stop. That's the kind of level of respect that they give to each other. It doesn't matter what class of bike you're on or anything else like that. It is literally just going for it. So obviously with that in mind, you've got the opportunity to tag along for 125cc friendly routes, and then you've got the other side of things where, well, you're going to need to be able to go on the motorway and other things like that. Because unfortunately here in the UK, if you have an L plate, you are not legally allowed to go on a motorway. So again, you must stick to every other kind of road with the exception of any M roads. And if you're not sure what they are the ones that are blue on the map. But yeah, obviously some routes can be hilly as well. So 125 struggling up a hill is just not a good experience, because all you're going to hear is your poor thing struggling to get up the hill, and it's just going to go and that'll be it. But of course, it can be a good idea to kind of practice hills and stuff, get used to more climbs. I mean, I have a slight hill when I go to work, so I'm kind of used to like a rolling gradient a little bit, but nothing compared to like countryside, like massive hills. With that in mind as well, throughout the summer, if you've been a huge fan of the black only wardrobe like myself, shout out to all the goth community, you'll notice that as you're riding, it'll be very, very warm, like you're roasting. Most people would suggest lighter colors, and they would be very wise to suggest this. I would recommend a color that does not absorb heat. So if you're going to go for anything that's sort of a darker color, make sure it's contrasted with like a red or another favorite color of yours, like blue, greens, yellows, you name it, colors of the rainbow. You can pick any color you wish. But of course, the other thing as well, visibility. That's the next thing as well. You don't want to have a jet black, like an invisible rider appearance, because if you think about it at night, the only thing that's illuminating you is the front and the back of your bike, and that is it. So I would highly recommend, even if you've got light clothing on, get a high vis vest. I do not ride at night without it. I do not go anywhere without it. I take my bag with me and it always is in there. So definitely recommend a high vis. You can literally pick them up for less than £6 on eBay. So if you can afford £6, you can definitely afford the bike. You can definitely afford all that. Think about yourself. Honestly, it sounds like I'm being like a negative nag about it, but the amount of times me wearing a high vis has saved my life. Just keep that in mind. But yeah, of course, I don't really want to keep avoiding, I don't want to keep bombarding you with information too much, and trying to keep stuff short as possible, to make sure that you guys get as much information, but not like irrelevant information, if that makes sense. So I'm kind of spitballing my experiences a little bit. But here's another thing I would recommend as well. I have actually got a toolkit in my bag at all times. So what I mean by that is, basic ratchet tools, basic screwdriver set, and everything else like that. I've even got a puncture kit. I've even got a med kit. So just got everything else like that ready to go. And it's just literally, just a case of going through it. In fact, there's an actual anecdote that I'll share really quickly. I ended up with a puncture in my rear tire, and I was literally like stuffed. I managed to get the repair done when I got home because I noticed it when I got home, luckily. But when I got home, I was just like, I need a new tire. Where can I get a new tire? Immediately joined a biker community group, which I've been a part of quite some time before this puncture happened, but never really posted. And then I posted it out there. It's like, hi, I've just got my first puncture. Haven't a clue where to get a tire. Anybody recommend one? Thanks. Literally within minutes, I was bombarded with post responses, and I literally got to the local tire shop near me. They literally booked me in before they even went on this holiday trip, got me fitted, replaced the new tire, made me day. And I was just like, wow, that's amazing. So I ended up with like a brand new high, pretty reasonable tire, and yeah, back on the road again. So I was just amazed at how quickly not only the community helped out, but obviously the local tire guy helped out. I will obviously, highly recommend reaching out to bike communities and obviously looking around online for all your local tire shops if you do run into that problem. So, tires are like shoes; you need to replace them occasionally. Now, that all seems like a very exciting time. Being a biker, you get to go out and do your own thing, but just need to lift the rose tinted shades from your eyes a little bit, because being in the UK with the weather, it is our biggest enemy. Not only that, you have a lot of cars that can battle against. You're literally deciding whether it's safe for you to come out and literally be in their space. 9 out of 10 times, bikers get hit because nobody's paying attention. So, biggest advice I will always give to any rider that's on the road for the very first time: ride like nobody can see you. If you have to literally, be a lot slower than you normally would from general traveling and stuff like that, do it. If you need to wear high vis, do it. If you need to just not go out at night or don't even travel, do it. You can just, preserve yourself. That's the whole point. But with the weather kind of things, my biggest advice for like any wet riding: if you haven't got any layers and you haven't got anything keeping you warm, be prepared to feel a lot colder than you have. And also have an option to dry your clothes as quickly as you can if you're needing to go out the next day, or a little bit later on. I have literally been battling the elements for most of the year in the UK, and rain sucks, wind sucks, snow, ice, it sucks. So obviously with that, assess the weather outside, assess whether it's safe for you to go outside or not. And obviously, if you don't need to ride, don't do it. If you can get a lift with a car or something, do it. So going back to my point where I said ride like nobody can see you, I'm going to try and translate that into something a little bit more understandable. So imagine literally you are invisible. Nobody can see your bike, you on the bike, what's around them. You literally do not exist. So you need to make yourself as noticeable as possible. So obviously using your blinkers or indicators, depending on where you're from. Obviously we call them indicators here in the UK. Making sure you're positioned correctly in the road, and of course wearing as much bright clothing as you can. But obviously there's another argument in the in the biking world that obviously having a loud exhaust can double your chances of being noticed, which I can find that interesting in a sense, because obviously you're making a lot louder noise, but there's the scientific side of things as well. So chances of that being heard while somebody's in the car, because you've got somebody with the car radio on and the windows being quite thick, and general traffic noise and general things like that. It can be quite tricky, but obviously it depends on the exhaust, depends on variables, blah 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 blah. But I'm sure there's a science experiment out there that's been done to obviously prove this sort of thing, but just have a look into that. But when it comes to that sort of thing, I'm neither here nor there with that one. So, but alas, I think it's time to wrap this video up, because I don't want to bombard you with too much information. And obviously suggest the following points before you sign up for your CPT. Be prepared to make mistakes, ride carefully, and of course, ride your own ride. So I hope this gives you a good scope of your first year. And of course, I encourage you all to do the same like I did. Reflect back on your first year. It's a good refresher to what's happened so far and what you can do and what you can't do. So, yeah. Hi all, future Jakey here. I just wanted to let you know that Yes, I did have a great first year of riding, and like anything, you'll experience the good and the bad. I, however, unfortunately, experienced the very bad. I had my very first slip on ice, leading to be really badly hurting my ribs, and it was painful at the time. But I can reassure you, I'm doing fine. There's nothing serious that's happened, but like anything, for the first time, especially if it's a bad thing, you're gonna get a few emotional responses to it and stuff like that. So, but of course, like any injury, if you do happen to find yourself coming off the bike for the first time, please get checked if you need to, even if you don't think it's that bad. So, with that in mind, I'm going to show you two images of my footrests, and I'll just simply say this: think of your skin. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you've enjoyed it. Of course, if you did, please leave a like. It really helps the channel out big time. I'm hoping to do more essay things like this, whether it's gaming related or biker related. Kind of get the idea of who I am and what I enjoy. And of course, if you do want to see more content, please hit the subscribe button. It's free to do, and it takes less than a second. Of course, if you want to leave a comment below, you're more than welcome to do so. And of course, have a great day.